Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Yeah, back to normal, I think. Feels nearly back to normal.
You've been doing a lot of shows. It's great to see those pictures of crowds happily gathered to
Oh,
laugh.
yeah. Well, I actually doing more shows than I would have done because the North American leg got cancelled. Not the venues as such, but the travel restrictions and the visas and stuff. And one had a knock-on effect to the other, and so I had to cancel like a couple of cities.
So you literally cannot get into the country? Is that the problem?
Well, I can now, but I couldn't then
Mm-hmm.
without having a knock-on effect of having to cancel other shows and stuff. It was a nightmare just because the get having to get there, quarantining and stuff. So, but this is, I mean, this is in the past when people are listening to this. But the reason so I put in more shows in London for a couple of reasons, really. One, those cancelled shows, I've got to give all the money back,
Mm-hmm.
and some of it was going to charities.
Right.
So I felt bad that they're just not going to get the money that they were promised. So I've sort of replaced the shows in the UK that I could do. So I
Those
I, I don't usually do it, but I've put in a few arenas to make sure the charities got as much money as I thought they'd get.
those damn
Also,
charities. Did they ever send like scary
no,
guys
no, it
around to
was
collect from you? Like
yeah, no, it was me just that they need it and they've been hit. Also, I didn't want to have a 3 week gap with no gigs because it's getting better and better, and I'm filming it. So you want to be ring fit.
right.
It's no good to get the show up and running and then go right. I'll have a month off and film it because it just won't be as good. It's like I don't think people realize how important it is. If you do 3 gigs in a row, that third gig is flying.
Hmm.
It's you know you can get away with a week off here and there, particularly if you've done enough. I've done probably 100 big theatres and arenas, but I did 100 warm-ups before I even put the tickets on sale.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have like a long time off, it's not starting again because you've got the material. You've got to learn to use a tennis analogy, hit the ball again. Everything's got to
It's
be,
amazing that
you
that's
know,
true. I mean,
yeah.
it's counterintuitive that that would be the case, especially if you have the material totally locked.
Well, I mean, imagine it. If you practice something, you do it 3 times in a row, the third time's going to be better.
Yeah.
Just because you're going to be, just the rhythm, the confidence, the nailing it, the intonation. It's theaters. The play gets better. Because
Right.
it's everything. So there's 2 reasons why I put more shows in. I've been loving it. I've been loving it more than ever. I fell back in love with stand up on Humanity, and I've been loving this even more. I think it might be, post pandemic. Everyone seems so grateful.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah, that's got to
so
be huge.
grateful to be back, and yeah, it's been fantastic. It's also tiring. I,
Yeah.
I forget that I'm middle aged. So I do a gig and it's really exciting, and I come back and it's great, and then the next day, particularly if I do 3 in a row, I wake up and I think I don't remember getting hit by a car yesterday, but
Right.
it feels
Yeah.
like I have been. I think, no, I didn't drink. Am I hungover? You just feel. I assume it's just the adrenaline that you're not aware of, like
Right.
2 hours of just walking and talking, and it's the concentration. I don't drive, but I've heard people say that if they're driving for 2 hours, they're exhausted, like
You
because
don't
it's
you
life
don't
and
drive
death.
literally. I
No,
mean, you cannot drive. You
no,
do not have a
no,
license.
no. Both of those things. I think.
Right.
I mean, I haven't got a license. I've never had a license, so I guess I couldn't
Wow.
drive. I'd have a go in a post-apocalyptic
Right.
sort
Yeah.
of disaster. If the zombies were coming, I reckon
Yeah.
I could just if the key was
Put a
in.
good show of it.
I reckon I could. I might stall it a few times, although automatics don't even stall, do they?
No,
I mean
they do not.
that's
Yes.
a great thing, isn't it? That you know,
That's a big innovation for the apocalypse for people like you. That you if you could just get it into gear,
well,
there's no possibility of stalling.
it's like a Darren Brown experiment.
Yeah.
We found people who have never been in a car before, driven away, and showed them
Put them in a
lions,
life-changing
zombies.
emergency. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if you. I was going to talk to you about that because I've been watching a lot of stuff online about the brain and everything, and that sound like an idiot. I've been watching stuff online about the
And
brain, and I'd
everything.
like to.
Yeah.
And I, yeah, and I have a few questions about it.
All right.
Right, number
Oh, it's in
one,
your head. In your head.
where
Let's
is
get
the
that out of
brain
the way.
located? That's answer that one. It's in the head. I thought it was. It feels like what it is. Yeah. How did we even know that it was in the head?
Well, you don't.
How
The
did they
truth is,
know that?
for the longest time, we didn't know that anything important was in the head. I mean, it's just that's not obvious. I mean, it's only obvious if someone hits you in the head and it has a disproportionate effect. I mean, there are people, there's whole cultures that have thought that the seat of consciousness is in the heart, in the center, not
Right.
necessarily the physical heart, but in the center of the chest in some ethereal way, perhaps. But
Do you think that's because not just sort of poetry and symbolism, but do you think that sometimes you do feel like you're thinking in your, like adrenaline and fear
Yeah, there's a lot going on
and
there. Yeah.
anxiety? It does feel there like you're trying to work stuff out.
Yeah.
Does it feel like it's in the brain, or do we just know that? So,
Well, I think it's more a matter of where our primary sense doors, especially vision, are located. If your eyes were in your shoulders, I think you would feel your point of view to be coming from your shoulders, not from your head. I mean, so much of our locating ourselves subjectively is based on the visual reference point.
so you feel like when we're looking at something and thinking about something, it feels like it's behind the eyes.
Yeah, you've as a subject, you feel like you're behind your eyes for the most part. But that actually can change. There are experiences people have where they can feel like they're in their chest, and there's certainly the manipulations that can be done where you give people video goggles where you then give them different inputs, and you can feel they can feel that they've left their body. You can there's actually even a body swapping experiment that appears to have been successful, where someone can feel that they are standing in the position of another person and inhabiting their body.
Swap sort of virtual reality goggles.
Yeah.
So you're wearing mine, so
Right.
I see everything you do.
Exactly.
And you see everything.
Yeah, it's based on this.
Wow.
There was this experiment now going back some decades, which produced what is now called the rubber hand illusion, where if you put someone's hands in front of them, but put one of them beneath the table, and let's say your left hand is beneath the table, your right hand is on the table, and in place of your left hand, we put a rubber hand. Then within view of you, we stroke that rubber hand with let's say a paintbrush, and simultaneously.
I don't like the way this is going, Doctor. Well, I don't.
This is scarcely legal. Some variants of this are to be frowned upon, but
yeah.
So, and then simultaneously we stroke your real left hand with another paintbrush, and in time with the paintbrush you can see touching the rubber hand. People feel that there's a common experience where suddenly the rubber hand sort of snaps into your body image, and it feels like your hand.
Well, there's a thing in sports science that's linked to like visualization, where they've done experiments where they've shown that they've trained people and they haven't trained people, and then they've split the people who are non-training to watching videos about their sport or whatever, and they've had up to a 7% improvement just watching stuff and visualizing it. And there's also a thing where, like bodybuilders now, some of them, when they're doing like a bicep curl, they touch the bicep they're working and look at it, because it has a greater connection. And they've said
that's just vanity. Yeah. I think they're just
yeah. I that's why I always do my biceps in the mirror and I kiss them.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I love you guys. Yeah. So, but that is clearly now. So that is connecting it, isn't it? Like,
well, so
in a connection.
There's actually another principle there with working out. You actually do get greater gains insofar as you can neurologically activate the relevant muscle, a considerable part of actual strength, physical strength, is not dependent on the size of someone's muscles. It is dependent on the neurological ability to fully activate those muscles. So it is kind of a
So hold
mind
on,
over
what you're
matter
saying is,
principle here. I mean, this is why
so
you can see people who are exactly your size in the gym who are twice as strong as you, or half as strong as you, and that's really a story of neurology more than it is the actual muscle size.
so what you're saying is, so hold on,
Mm.
so if two people have an equivalent bicep in terms of size and the same sort of value of like red and white twitch or whatever, it's the
Mm.
same, effectively the same muscle. One can literally engage it better, like
Yeah,
use more of the fibers, or
yeah, and this is we're now at the limit of my understanding of the specific physiology here, but you introduce an important caveat because it's not just muscle size. There are different quality muscle types, and there are
yeah.
different genotypes here. So the people have more
Why is
quick
it?
twitch versus slow twitch, and but
But
leaving that
why is
aside,
a
there
gorilla stronger than the strongest man, even if the strongest man's got much bigger muscles? Are they? Is there something about the quality of those muscles? They're not. They're not real. They're not brought through sort of strength. They're just pumped up nonsense.
it's
Or
it's because
yeah.
gorillas are so politically active.
Do you know what I mean? Because you
They're
do see
so
it.
committed.
You do see it though. The gorilla.
Yeah,
They're
no,
big.
no,
They're
there's
800 pounds. But
yeah.
you've seen a gorilla, and you look at the arm. Next to a ridiculous bodybuilder, and it's probably not as thick, but
Have you
there's obviously
seen?
something going
Well,
on.
this is true of gorillas. It's true of chimps. But I have on this point. Have you ever seen a picture of a chimpanzee with that's bald, and the chimpanzee with alopecia has lost all
Oh,
its
it's
hair?
incredible. I know.
They are
Yeah,
so well muscled. I mean, they don't look
yeah.
like much when they've got a when they have their hair, but Jesus Christ.
But it's also the sheer. Even it's not just the musculature, is it? It's the skeleton. It's the way it's
Yeah.
connected. It's the aggression. It's like they
But I know it's
the fact
but
that
to your point, I
yeah.
think they do have different muscle fibers, different ratios, and I think they have significantly stronger tendons and ligaments because, and again, this is I'm speculating here. I'm sure someone actually knows, but when you look at what they can do, like when you think about what it takes for a human being to be able to do a one-armed pull-up, far less than 1% of even
Yeah.
fit people can do that. And apes can do such a thing routinely, and an
Yeah.
orangutan can just swing itself up to a higher branch with one arm. So it's
And they're in worse shape than me. I've
yeah,
got a better figure than the average orangutan.
orangutans. Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Their beer gut is fucking
I bet the
ridiculous.
bald ones are even unimpressive.
They've really let themselves go,
Yeah,
orangutan.
yeah.
No, I know. It's fascinating that there must be something physically different. But to get back to being able to engage it more, so I could, I've no idea what I could bench press, right? Supposing I can bench press like 100 kilograms, right? And that's what I could do
All right,
one
I'm
rep.
going to bet
And
against it.
I,
I'm going to take
well, no, I
money.
don't know.
Yeah,
I know so little
go
about
ahead
it. I
on
don't
Twitter
know whether
here.
that's
Yeah,
fantasy or I don't know if that's good or bad, right?
this
So
this is this
let's
is
do
where I'm going to
100.
make the
It's
real money. I'm going to bet against your bench press.
right.
I'm going to put it on
Okay.
Periscope.
Right. Right. I'm trying to play it cool, like I've never tried, and I don't know
That's
what I
right.
can bench press.
Yeah.
So I can bench press. Right. I could do
You've
one
hired
rep.
people to be touching your muscles as you attempt to do this. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to pretend that English kilos are different. Yeah. Oh no, 100 kilos. Oh no, I can't do that. So I can lean back and I can with all my and just do one rep. I can do 100 kilos, right? Are
Hmm.
you saying that I could learn to engage the muscle so much that I could put straight away 20 kilos on that and lift it because I'd be engaging the muscle better?
Effectively, I think that's implicit in what I'm saying, but that doesn't seem very likely. I think it's more likely to describe it from the other side, which is, as you train and get, quote, stronger, and you
Yeah.
get to the point where you can lift heavier and heavier weight, what is actually happening there is not 100% a story of your muscles changing. It's in large part a story of your neurological mapping of your muscle
Right.
use is changing.
getting used to it and
Yeah.
being more efficient and whatever. So something else is happening as well as
muscles
you splitting
changing.
the muscles and growing them back. Yeah.
Right.
So I see.
So actually, so one thing is, so if you got really good at weightlifting, right, and you made many gains over the course of, let's say several years, and then you had an injury and you couldn't work out for 6 months or whatever, and you lost all of your gains in terms of your muscle, then you ask, well, how quickly could you get back to your former condition? I think it would be much faster than the original climb from zero, because you'd be able to find the pathways better than you could the first time around.
Again, though, when you say neurological, do you mean your brain is doing something that the muscles? I know this doesn't make sense, but what do you mean by that? What do you mean by?
Well, so take a specific exercise, like you're pulling, what's called a lat pull with your back, right? You're seated, you've got a cable in front of you, you're pulling your elbows back past your torso toward the back wall. You're supposed to be engaging your back, and there are several muscle groups that you could be engaging, and you want to engage your lats and your rhomboids, and you want to retract your scapula. Now, someone who really knows what they're doing can really find all of those muscle groups consciously. I mean, they can engage all of it.
Surely that's technique. Surely that's a technique and training, and I get that. But I thought you meant that it's almost like akin to trying harder, but your brain's doing it for you. Like,
I think
we all know that if when we train ourselves, if I try and run for as long as I can, after 3 miles I go, oh, that's it, I can't do it. With someone with a gun to my head,
right,
I can do 15 miles. Right, it hurts and I'm falling apart, but we know we can always do a bit more until we collapse and die.
Yeah.
Now,
there's that too. Yeah.
There is that too.
That's also part of it. Yeah. And there's just little things like if you're lifting weights and someone tells you just to grip the weight harder, just engage your hands more than you were a second ago, that recruits more of the relevant muscles, right?
Yeah, there's in soccer over here. I say soccer out of
out of deference
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it hurts me because it's football.
Yeah,
we kick the ball.
But I would have no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Because you came along and went, "Oh no, this is football." Oh, that's football. That game that you hold the ball and use your hands. That's football, is it? As opposed to ours. Over here, we have they have sports psychologists and everything, but there's one in football that I know about where they penalty takers.
Wait a minute, are we talking about football now? Now I'm actually confused.
Soccer,
you just switched
soccer. Okay, right. Okay, a penalty taker is a high stress situation. You must score, and apparently they tell them to squeeze their left hand before they take the penalty. Because
do they just tell that to the opposing team, or do they tell that to their own players?
The referee says, "Squeeze my hand, and I will make sure you score." And then, and no, they make a fist with their left hand.
Huh. I don't know what that's
something
about.
To do with it's something to do with concentration and. But I don't know enough. See, I was hoping you'd know about that. And so,
listen, I can't even get the name straight of the sport.
I know, but what I was going to say was that I've heard again. These might be mythology, or I'll go back to my initial premise. I was watching stuff about the brain on YouTube
and
once.
Everything. Yeah. Not driving a car, still not yet another day not behind the wheel of a car.
I like the fact that I naturally fell into my role of being the idiot because you've got these fancy qualifications.
Listen, right? if you can't drive your pregnant wife to the hospital to deliver your child because you don't know whether your automatic car is going to stall. And not even zombies can get you to achieve this competence. You are at a disadvantage in pretty much any conversation.
There was no driving in my evolution, so I refused to pander to these modern ways.
Right. You're Amish.
Yeah. So there was a thing about how much stuff our brain does without bothering us.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this, that if you had to make your heart beat every 1 second, people would be forgetting and dying and stuff, right? But there's more to it than that. I think I told you that story about the guy who was at sea for 28 days
Mm-hmm.
or something, and he was starving. He caught a fish, and soon he was eating the eye first, and he didn't know why. It's because it was the only thing with fresh water. So somehow his brain, when it tasted that eye the first time, it said, right, eat that first next time. He didn't know why.
Right.
There was also a thing where people who'd been been around a building in chaos or, fire, they went the right way, not knowing they knew the right way, that their brain must have been making notes at some point. Now, is that a real thing, that we go along and we take in information without knowing it, but when it comes to it, your brain goes, I know the way out. I've been here before. Is that a real thing?
Well, it can be a real thing for some people, I assume, but it could be the opposite thing for others. I mean, the truth is, my wife's sense of direction is so bad.
Yeah, mine too.
That she's actually reliably wrong. Like you're wise to bet against her, and you'd be wise to bet against her in an emergency like that. If she says go right, then you just got to go left.
I go into a shop with Jane. I come out and go the wrong way, and she goes, "Where are you going?" Because I literally don't think. Now I think that's laziness though, because
but it's worse because if it was a 50-50 sort of error, then you would ascribe it to chance, and that would be. Laziness could be at the back of that, but for her, she's reliably pointed in the wrong direction. So it's actually, she has information that is encoded. It's just flipped for some reason.
Yeah, but I don't believe that's a disorder of any sort. I believe.
Well, if you're a migratory bird, it would be.
I love the fact that you're trying to hold your wife to the same standard as some sort of African swallow.
Pretty much all the birds.
I just love the idea of that. That's amazing. Annoyed that she has. Yeah. Oh God, you're worse than a pigeon.
Listen, if you've ever wandered a parking lot for 45 minutes with your wife who parked the car and you did not take the time to pay attention because she was the one driving. These are driver's problems that you haven't had.
We do have different brains, because I think my sense of direction's off. I do think that 50% of it is laziness, that if I have to find my way somewhere, I can do it. If I walk the same place with someone 50 times and they're not there, I'm in trouble because I haven't been concentrating. Mm-hmm. I haven't been bothering. So it is laziness. But then I'm like, just on a comparative level, I don't remember any names, and that me and Jane have got a thing that I could be working with people, and that if I say, "Oh, do you know Jane?" Because I don't know this person's thing, and then Jane goes, "Oh, sorry, what's your name?" I go, "Oh," and then I can go, "Oh, sorry, I thought," right? Because she knows I won't know the name. Whereas we could be walking down the street, and I can say to someone on a bus stop, I go, "Oh, that was the usher in the cinema 3 years ago." I recognise their face.
Yeah.
So I assume we have different. We know what's important to us. I assume there's sex differences. There's lots of different.
This is a very common difference. I mean, we are, apart from people who have a disorder called prosopagnosia, where they can't recognize faces, human beings are routinely incredibly good at recognizing faces in an instant and remembering them for years and years. I mean, it's just amazing how quickly we do that. And it's also incredibly common to be bad at recalling names, because certainly comparatively terrible at recalling names.
Because they don't have as much meaning.
We're just so, I mean, we've evolved for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years to recognize faces. I mean, we've never been forced to recognize thousands upon thousands because we lived in smaller groups, but still the facial display of emotion and intention and everything else. I mean, we are born to read faces, and we are not born, even in the modern world, to record people's names.
No, of course.
It's just in any form. It's just not. It's just
an
added skill.
I was watching this lecture with this artificial intelligence expert, and she was saying about robots where people are frustrated that they haven't got a robot that looks just like a person yet. And she was saying that actually people don't really like that, because if it's a robot that looks like a real person, but it's not the same, it freaks us out.
Yeah.
Whereas we like things that aren't meant to be people, like with the cute little things that looks like a dustbin with eyes.
Right.
And so we have less expectation of it. And
Well, did you know this phrase, the uncanny valley? Have you heard that phrase?
no.
So
What's that?
this is a phrase that was coined. I forget who coined it. I think it had to have been some roboticist, but it's been coined to describe that very thing. But many of us have applied it to other phenomenon because it's such a useful concept. So the uncanny valley is just what you described. There's this continuum of resemblance to a human face that you can achieve in building a robot when you're very far from being similar, right? You're on one side of the valley. So you just have as you said, a dustbin with eyes. You can get these cute, totally non-disturbing, fun, simulacra of faces.
Yeah.
And as you get closer and closer to resembling a true person, you descend down into what's called the uncanny valley, where it becomes more and more uncanny, which is to say creepy and unnerving and unpleasant and undesirable, and it doesn't get good again until you actually achieve perfect or something close to perfect resemblance.
That's very interesting. Now, I thought that was a matter of taste, because I thought it was an aesthetic, like some cartoons. I hate it when they're trying to be too realistic or cutesy, and I love it when it's sort of like ugly blobs with expressions and eyebrows and faces. And I thought that was like an artistic snobbery. I'm not a fan of those, paintings that are a beautiful leopard. And I think a leopard, you can't do a painting that's as good as a leopard. So it annoyed me that people would try in a way, because it's not. You're right, but if it tends towards photoreal again, like it could be a photo of a leopard, I like it again because it's a leopard.
Well, I do think there's something else going on there. I do think there's an aesthetic judgment which is a little strange. I'm sure someone has figured out why this is the case, but there is something about photorealistic art not being the most satisfying, whereas you think it would be, because that's just amazing. Someone can paint something that looks exactly like a photo, but for whatever reason, aesthetically, those are generally not judged to be the most brilliant works of art.
Yeah.
But with robots, there's a specific problem. It's just because now you're relating to this thing, it's making expressions. The eyes are moving around, it's talking to you. If it looks a lot like a person, but still not quite, right? It's got this creepy aspect to it. I think that's more or less universally perceived, but it's important to realize it would go away if we actually got to something that was indistinguishable from a person, which is at least conceivable. Then it would just, by definition, it would be indistinguishable from a person, and you wouldn't have that feeling about it.
Well, except there are some people that we say, oh, they're so robotic, they're not real. They just talk. You know what I mean? Like those people that make you feel uneasy because there's some at Stepford wife-ish about, and that's like, oh, what? Just chill out, rough your hair up, So I think we're scared of that sort of even perfection. We want it to be real. I think it's about expectation. Like if a dustbin starts walking around with like flashy eyes and on its wheels, and we have an empathy for it. But if something that nearly looks like a person, but they start moving weird or say a weird phrase, then it creeps us out because our expectation of it is human and it falls short. For example, this expert said that even a rudimentary robot that could be a dustbin that moves around comes towards us, because we have this thing in our evolution. We see something move, we straight away make a decision. It's an agent. They call them agents, right. I think. We say, is it friend or foe? We straight away go, is that because it could be a danger. It could be our friend or it could be a lion. And once we've decided that it's not a danger, we instantly have an empathy with it, because it's part of the world we live in, and it moves around, and it could be a friend. Now that's very interesting that we still have that thing that if something's moving around, it could either help us or kill us.
Yeah, well,
Which,
it seems. I'm not sure we would ever want to get rid of that, really, given the possibilities. Because it's just so often true that it can either help us or kill us.
yeah, that is,
I don't
yeah,
know.
that is, yeah.
I
But
don't know.
then
I don't know
that's
what
true
part
of
of
things
London
that.
you're. I don't know what part of London you're living in, but
But that's
anything
true of
moving
it. That
around is
is,
worth looking at.
you're right. I mean, that's true of people,
Yeah,
cars,
yeah,
and cows.
and and and
It's,
certainly a dustbin with eyes.
yeah. If it was just talking normally, that's the other
Mm.
thing. The normal voices as well. I think that's the next step, isn't it? That now they really have got totally normal
Have you
voices.
have you been following the deep fake problem? I mean, that's like these recent
Yeah, I
videos
only
that
know
came
the
out with
one.
Tom Cruise, or that
Yeah,
weren't
I
Tom
mean
Cruise.
they are indistinguishable. There's I can't imagine. That's early as well, isn't it? This is in its infancy, so
Yeah, but I
where's
mean,
it
but
going
it's
to
so
be?
close to being undetectable. At least
Oh, it's
by yeah,
amazing. No, it's amazing. What I mean is the implications are unknown.
yeah.
I mean, they're off the charts what people could be doing. But yeah, that's yeah. Well, I don't know why people like impressions either. You do these people that can do impressions. It's and we've seen them done before, and we've got the real person. Why is it funny
Hmm.
to have someone do a great impression of someone else? Why is that?
That's
Why do we
interesting. Yeah,
admire that? Because it's instant. Even if you don't like it, they're certainly not the be all and end all of entertainment or anything. Impressionists, but you can't help but go, "Oh, that was good. Oh, that's good." What?
yeah.
Why do we recognize? Why do we go? Oh, it
I,
sounds
I
just like Tom
yeah. Well,
Hanks.
they
I
also
don't.
who is it? Steve Coogan and what's his friends or Rob?
Rob Brydon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Apologies to Bryden. I'm sure that's happened before. They're dueling Michael Caine impersonations. Have you seen that?
yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Well, I mean, it's fun. It's funny because the other thing that I've noticed as well is that when ordinary people do impressions, they actually do an impression of an
Right.
impressionist because the impressionist has shown you the blueprint. They've broken it down and showed you how it works, so you can sort of do that. They've reduced it to what it is. My name is Michael Caine.
Right.
It's sort of like they've shown you what that person talks like, so now you can nearly do it. And I don't know, it's funny why we find that so amusing. What
Well, I mean, it's
is it a
just
trick? Is it the same reason we like tricks?
well, there's
That we
there's
like a
so
magic
much.
trick?
Yeah, well, there's that, but it's there's so much information encoded in a successful impression. I mean, you're managing to change your voice. I mean, you're often you're sometimes adopting an accent that you don't have. You're changing your voice, and you're acquiring various facial tics in order to accomplish that, or to give it further color. And
Sure.
it is kind of it's almost like a truly good impression is it's like you've channeled the person. You've like brought that
Well,
person.
that's it, isn't it? But I think what we're seeing is we're admiring the skill to get to that point because we can all change our voice. We can all do every
Mm,
sound under the sun if we bothered. If there's someone showed us, if someone said do this, we could do it. We can learn the joke. We can learn the mannerisms. We can do it. It's not like, I mean, let's be honest, right? As if you're the greatest impressionist in the world, you're nothing to a chameleon
hmm.
or a squid. Those squid boys, they can literally change into a rock. If
Well,
we're talking
well,
about
also
hummingbirds,
well, yeah, 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 the magpie, yeah. Well,
yeah,
but there's it's interesting. It's a little bit like the limitation of photorealistic art too, because you're also just not ever going to be anyone's favorite comedian, right? I mean, there's a limitation to that gag. It's amazing when it's
yeah,
brought off, but it's still there is a ceiling effect. I mean, that's never going to be the best hour of comedy, no matter how good those impressions are.
no. And again, because you've seen the trick, I think there's the same with like we talked about it with puns that
Right.
if you have 100 puns, they're as good as they've got to be better than the last one. And you can look at your watch and there's no story, no narrative, no.
That's a
But
hundred. That's 100 puns too many in my book. I'm
yeah,
going to take the anti-pun position here.
yeah, yeah. No,
That's a
exactly.
101 puns too many.
Yeah, I know. It is interesting though, isn't it? That I think there's something to do with we like our brain. I mean, why do we like being entertained? We know what's happening. We're not
Mm.
being. It's not a surprise. We go along to be entertained. We watch TV programs that we want to. We demand. We demand. What is that for? Does it relax us? Is it good for us? Is it? Why do we? I know we like it, but why do we know we like it? Why is that?
Well,
Why is that even happened?
well,
That why
I
is
think we have touched on this at some point, but I do think so much of it is it's a completely novel circumstance in evolutionary terms. It's a social encounter. More like when you're specifically when you're watching a film or television, you are presiding over the adventures and ordeals of other people, and you're proximate to them. Visually, you're right up in the when you're seeing a close up, you're as close to a person's face as you ever are in life, and yet you're unimplicated in the situation. I mean, so no matter how stressful or chaotic things get, you're completely safe. And you're unseen, and yet you can look directly into people's eyes, and you can see them navigate various challenges and horrors, and you can see violence meted out, and it's
But
just
I guess I mean, why is it good? Why do we like just storytelling? That's the oldest form of storytelling, isn't it? What it's sharing information, sharing stories, fact or
well,
fiction.
you're
That's
running those experiences in emulation through your mind, and you're imagining what it would be like to be the actual protagonist, and that is so there's kind of social and emotional learning happening. No matter how extreme the experience is in the in the film, or in this case in the story, in the book even, you're safe, right? And yet you're learning, you're
yes,
learning from it in some
yes.
sense.
So in some way, it's a simulator that, and even I've talked about this myself. That I think fiction is role play for the soul. We go through all those
Mm-hmm.
things, and maybe that is some sort of like preparation, taking your brain somewhere your body hasn't been. Maybe it makes us feel good because
Well, it's also
the right result.
you're getting more information than you normally get in life too. It's like when you're if you're
Yes,
reading
it's
a book,
condensed.
yeah, it's
Yes,
super condensed, and also you're getting
yes,
insight into. I mean, in many cases, you can actually hear the other person's thoughts, right?
yes. No, that's very interesting. That it's downloading a life. Like it's like
yeah.
taking a pill to learn French. That you can read a book and it's a saga. It can be the life of this. Yeah, that right. I'm going to add that to it. I also think there's something that initially entertainment was a social skill. Like cavemen didn't used to put on plays, but there must have been something about sharing and empathy that gave one person an advantage, not just having a big club and smashing someone's brains in. That gave him the biggest advantage, I imagine. But I imagine my method of trying to make people laugh to get out of trouble probably wouldn't have worked 10,000
Yeah,
years
I'd
ago.
like to see.
Like,
Let's see the full history of failed impressions that ended with a clubbing. That would be
yeah, if someone's threatening me a witty comeback
yeah.
it really doesn't work.
Yes, pretty
The funny thing was that
Paleolithic witty comebacks. I'd
yeah,
like to see the
well, some
video.
people have based their whole sort of comedy on that, haven't they? Like Woody Allen, Bob Hope.
Mm-hmm.
That they've explored that it doesn't pay to be the cleverest person in the room
Mm.
because Neanderthal can be king. It's like all the witty comebacks in the world. If someone punches you in the face and walks away, they win. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, that was
All
fun.
right. Well, let's get that bench press video up onto Twitter, and
I know.
just
I'm going
pay someone to
to.
touch your muscles all the while, and we'll see what you get. I'll start with 100 kilos.